Oh, hello there. Welcome to episode 16 of the Spotlight Games podcast. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Patrick Schweigert. I am joined by my co-host sitting to my right or left. Hey, how are you, Kim?
Doing just fine, Patrick. How about yourself?
You know, Cayman, I'm doing just fine. My ego is a little bit in the dumps, which we'll talk about here shortly. But other than that, I'm doing a-okay. We're also joined today by our first returning guest.
Ooh.
Our personal friend, our dear friend, Evan Brando. Welcome back, Evan. How are you?
Great to be here. Very excited. Thank you guys for having me back. Last time was so much fun.
Oh, stop.
Yeah. Well, for those of you who are just now tuning in, you may remember me from Spotlight Games episode 12.
There it is.
Yeah.
Top
12,
of the
right?
resume.
It was 12, right?
I couldn't tell you if there was a gun to my head. It was within the last 5 episodes.
Yeah.
Does anyone actually remember the episode? Like what we talked about?
I couldn't tell you. No, we talked about the Game Awards. It was the Game Awards.
It was definitely,
indeed.
yeah. I remember the content, but
Yeah.
Let me tell you, that feels like it happened 3 years ago with all
It
the
does.
shit that's taken place between then and now. It's insane.
Oh boy, does it. It sure does. Well, we have a great show for you. Before we jump into the show, I do want to do some quick housekeeping. We'd love it if you rate and review the podcast on the podcast app of your choice. As you might have heard us mention the last few episodes, you can rate podcasts now on Spotify, which is where our audience mostly is. So if you haven't already, we'd love it if you'd give us a 5-star rating. Goes a long way in spreading the word of our sweet, sweet little show. You can be on the show, mail at spotlightgames.net, or you can DM us on Twitter at SpotGamesPod or on Instagram at Spotlight Games Podcast. A new episode of our new show, Save Trash Cinema, will be launching next week on Tuesday the 25th. We're going to be watching a movie that I still haven't watched that I'm so scared to watch, but so excited to watch, called Samurai Cop.
oh, what?
boy.
Samurai Cop
So
rules.
if you
Ever
want
seen
to,
Samurai Cop?
I have not. I didn't know it existed until Cayman was like, "Hey, we're watching Samurai Cop for Save Trash Cinema." So, but I've read about it and I've talked to Cayman a little bit about it, and I am so excited because it sounds like just a screaming pile of trash and a lot of wigs. Apparently,
there's a lot of wigs and a lot of men in Speedos. Do want to point out, though, that if you too want to join along before the episode launches and watch Samurai Cop yourself, it is currently streaming for free on Tubi. So you will not have to spend any of your cold, hard-earned money on this. You can watch it on Tubi and then join us on the 25th for the episode where we will dissect and break down all those delightful things.
That's
the
second
the bikinis.
favorite So Bad It's Good movie.
Oh, really?
I would say, yeah, it's really, I mean, it's awesome.
What's your first?
So good.
First would be Miami Connection. If you guys do Miami Connection, you gotta have me on the show.
Well, guess what there, Evan? I don't know if you know this, but the director of Samurai Cop, Amir Shervan, directed Miami Connection as well.
Really? I thought
that?
I did not know
did.
that, actually.
He
That
did.
is, wow.
So needless to say,
I'm the star. Wild.
Maybe.
Anyway.
Needless to say, it sounds like we will be watching that at some point, so we'll definitely have you on for that one. Save Trash Cinema isn't on YouTube yet, but the Spotlight Games podcast is. So get your booty on over to YouTube, subscribe, ring the bell. We would love it if you would do that. Get our numbers up so we can do some fun things with the channel. Right now, we're just posting the episodes, so get us a little bit more subscribers, and maybe we'll do something fun like take our shirts off just for you. Okay, so into the show. We have a great show for you. We are going to talk about basically the single biggest piece of video game news, maybe in the history of the industry. And we're going to do like a fantasy video game publishing critic league that we're going to talk a little bit about, basically as a way of talking about all of the fun games that are coming out this year and the ones that we are the most excited about. But before we do so, let's start this episode, as we start every episode of the Spotlight Games podcast, with what we've been playing. Cayman, I turn to you, my co-host, to start us off with what you have been playing, sir.
I have been playing, Patrick and Evan. I have been playing Persona 5 Strikers.
How is that?
It is well, first, it's currently on PlayStation Plus for free. If you have PlayStation Plus, you can play Persona 5 Strikers at no cost outside of the subscription. As for the game, I'm currently about 7 hours in. It is a very odd feeling. It is not Persona, right? It is not a turn-based tactical RPG or JRPG. This is a Dynasty Warriors style action, very forward. But it's interesting because they blend all of the mechanics from the Persona series into a Dynasty Warriors style game. It's a very unusual package and combination. It takes place immediately after the events of Persona 5, not Persona 5 Royal. So if you are looking at kind of where the starting point is, if you've just played Persona 5, don't worry about Royal because it takes place immediately after that. I've been enjoying it. Nice. I'm nostalgic for the fact that I get to be back in the world of Persona 5. I absolutely love these characters. So there's this feeling of comfort being there. The gameplay itself, though, I don't know. I'm not a big Dynasty Warriors guy, so this isn't a game usually for me. I'm sticking with it because it's Persona and the way that they've included different elements like your personas or items, quests, and things like that are kind of carried over. So it is kind of a weird hybrid. So I'm sticking with it for the Persona. I'm hoping the gameplay catches me. Like I said, I'm 7 hours in, so it's not like I've only got like 30 or 45 minutes in. I will say, and it's something that Patrick and I discussed earlier when he was trying it out, is the game is very much just like Persona 5 in the way that it is so tutorial heavy at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like the first 4 hours of the game is literally nothing but a tutorial. And that can be a huge turnoff for some gamers because you don't get in the action immediately. So I can see where some people would be turned off. I'm not far enough in yet to be able to speak on the longevity of the game as you play through it. But what I can say is after the initial gel, things seem to start moving at a little bit of a faster pace. If you're a fan of Persona 5 or Persona games, or if you're a fan of Dynasty Warrior games, I'd say go ahead and give it a shot. Like I said, it's on PlayStation Plus for free right now. There's no reason not to download it and give it a shot, see if you like it. But for me, I'm enjoying it.
There you go. Yeah, I played a little bit. I need to go back, but so far the tutorials really turned me off. I was like, I just want to get to the game. I want to get to the story, and it was just like tutorial after tutorial after tutorial. But
it seems so odd for a Warriors game because I feel like half the fun is how like simple and intuitive the game is, and like a lot of them have like a deeper like combo system that's kind of fun to like get your hands on the wheel on, but like it feels very weird.
I've not played many Dynasty Warrior type games, but I will say from the little bit, and maybe Cayman, you might feel differently because you're a lot further than I am. I feel like the game is really simple, but it's telling me so many pieces of like different things I can do. It feels really complicated while also feeling really simple. And I'm like, there's just like a weird, like it's just not gelling for me because I'm kind of getting mixed messages a little bit on that front.
Sure.
So I don't know.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It seems like it's overly complicated, and it could potentially be if you play it on like the harder difficulties. It could potentially be that complicated. I'm playing it on the easiest difficulty because I just want to enjoy the game. I don't really care about, and there's no trophies. I think there's one trophy for beating it on the hardest difficulty, but there's a glitch that you can not have to do that at all, actually. Nice. So I just was like, fuck it. Playing it on the easiest difficulty. I just want to enjoy my experience. But so I could see it being that complicated. But if you just kind of just ignore all of the extra shit that they tell you, then it really is that simple.
Yeah, that makes sense. Brando, what about you? What have you been playing?
So a couple of things. On my stream, I am playing through Dark Souls 3 for the first time, and I am a pretty known naysayer of the Souls series. I've played Sekiro, I played a little bit of Bloodborne, I played a little bit of Dark Souls 2. That was like my first kind of into the series. And I've always just been like, these aren't for me. They're kind of crappy gatekeepery games. They're like fighting games for people with social anxiety. But within maybe 15-20 minutes of playing Dark Souls 3, I was like, all right, this was pretty fucking good. This is pretty fucking good video game. I'm really liking it. 3 is awesome. It's very simple, and like I think that's what I love about it. Is like Yeah, pretty much. You're going into a hallway and you're looking for like a sword that gives you a little better attack, but the game happens while you're I don't know, it's so weird. Like the narrative is not really that interesting to me. It seems a little generic. I'm sure it gets better. I know Dark Souls has like crazy lore, but like mechanically it's so cool. I don't know. I've never really played a game like it.
Yeah.
Other than a fighting game.
Right. Yeah. No, I've not played any of the Dark Souls. I have played the original Demon Souls, and then I played Bloodborne, and then I played the Demon Souls remake. And I like them, but sometimes I have to be in the right mindset. I have to like want to play them. It's not something that, like when the new one comes out, I'm definitely going to play it. It just depends on whether I'm in the right mood.
That's why it's been great on stream. And I've had, audience members who are helping out or not.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And then otherwise I've been playing a lot of Halo, which friggin' rules. It is like,
it's really fun, isn't it?
It's so fun. It's just fun. It's just fun. And then all of today, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Official dueling simulator dropped this morning. So I've been doing that all day. And it is so good.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Is it everything you dreamed of?
Yeah, it's everything you could want in a sim, because they are a little late to the like virtual sims, because basically every other card game has one. And they're competing with a lot of well-known free ones that are unofficial. And I think they're doing a great job. I think the free-to-play model seems really, really good. You'll be paying more for like a wide variety of decks you want to play instead of like the quality of deck. Anyway, the game's really good. I had to sneak that in there. So
where is it? Is it a PC game?
It's a PC game. It's a Switch game. It's a PS4 game. PS5, Xbox,
everywhere,
iPad. Yeah, everything. Yeah.
Cool.
I think it's iOS at least, but yeah, everywhere.
So would you say that it's time to did a duel?
I would, but we are podcasting, so after this, it'll be more time to duel.
Yeah.
Now it's time to podcast.
Great point.
What have you been playing?
As I've been on record saying the last couple of weeks, I've been in a bit of a rut, as you might say, trying to figure out what I want to play. And because ultimately what I want to play is Horizon Forbidden West, and that's not out for another month.
No, it is not.
So I did what any sane person would do, and I was like, what if I replayed all of Breath of the Wild? And like I started it up again.
It's never a bad idea. It's never a bad idea.
So I started it up and I was like, because I'm hot and cold on replaying games. Like sometimes I really want to replay a game, and sometimes I will get 5 minutes into it, like Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch, which is one of my favorite games. And I was like, recently I want to replay it. I got 5 minutes in, and I was like, I don't want to replay it. And I got 5 minutes into Breath of the Wild, and I was like, okay. And then all of a sudden I was 8 hours into the Breath of the Wild, and I was like, yeah, I want to replay this. So I'm 2 Divine Beasts in and like 40 shrines in, and I have the Breath of the Wild bug again, and I'm having a grand old time.
It happens because I'm right there with you. Where replaying games is hard for me, unless it's something real special. And Breath of the Wild is, or if it's doing something new, like a challenge run or something.
Yeah.
But like Breath of the Wild is one. Every time I've started it up, I'm like, I'm sucked in entirely. 100%.
Yeah. I will say, this time around, I am starting to notice more things that I don't love about the game. I still really love the game, and it's probably in my top 20. But there are definite issues with that game that I didn't see the first time around.
Absolutely. It's so weird because it is like, in my head, this is a 10 out of 10 perfect game that has stuff to improve on, which is so bizarre.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, even though there are issues, and some of those issues are so frustrating, it is still such a goddamn delight. And it's
fresh. I've never played anything like it.
Yeah, it's like I'll get to a point on the map, and I'll look somewhere, and I'm like, I have to go there, like right now. I have to stop what I'm doing and go there right now. It's like, I don't know how they do it, but it's like it's a magical experience, and I'm having a great time with it. But
God, I might replay it.
Horizon Forbidden West is so close, yet so far. So far. But I want to transition into what is potentially, if not definitely, if not like objectively, the biggest news story in video games outside of, as Evan mentioned pre-show, Master Duel dropping, dropping last night.
A surprise Yu-Gi-Oh launch is, that's huge.
So this week it broke at about 6 a.m. I think it was yesterday, right? Yeah. 6 a.m. yesterday, or 9 a.m. yesterday. Microsoft is purchasing Activision Blizzard for $68.7 billion Evan and Cayman. A number that I just cannot fathom. But before I go into the story, I have to address the elephant in the room, which is not 2 weeks ago on this very podcast, we were doing predictions for 2022. We were talking about Bethesda. We're talking about Pokemon. We're talking about Zelda. We're talking about Horizon. We're talking about God of War. And this motherfucker comes in and is like, I predict that Xbox will buy either Ubisoft or Activision. And I said on the record, you're insane. There is absolutely no way that's happening. Not 2 weeks later, pie in my face, it's been announced that Microsoft is buying Activision Blizzard. So I just want to take a moment of silence. And I want to turn to Cayman so that he can tear me down with his words.
I'm not going to tear you down. I feel it inappropriate to tear you down because a normal, rational person would look at me when I said that Xbox was, and if I'm not mistaken, I said that my inkling is that Activision was the one they were going to buy out, not Ubisoft as well.
Yes, that's exactly right.
One rational, logical human would say, Cayman, you're insane. You're a lunatic for thinking that. However,
I would not say that. I would argue with. I'm on your side.
Thank you, Evan.
It's look. It's such a PR disaster. It only makes sense to ship it on someone else.
Exactly. Sure. That's exactly my reasoning. And what I said was like, look, this is a perfect opportunity because Microsoft is in buying mood. They're just buying stuff up. They realize that with the studios that they currently have, there's no way for them to be able to catch up with all the exclusives and everything that PlayStation is doing. Now, they have to try to fast track that as quick as possible. So what they're able to do at that point is, sorry, my dogs are deciding to speak today. What they're doing though, is that they're taking, like I said, Activision just saying, we're fucked. We need help. Microsoft's dumping a ludicrous amount of money that is stupid. And they're getting that from it. So I'll let you guys take over and let you discuss amongst yourselves. I will sit here and gloat about the fact that I was right.
Yeah, the funniest part about it, other than you literally nailing it across the board, we talk about how I was like, look, if they spent $7.5 billion on Bethesda, which is one of the biggest game studios in the world, then a company that owns Call of Duty has to be at the very least $10 billion, and $68.7 billion is what they paid, which is just insane. But so it broke yesterday on the Wall Street Journal. Reporting was done by Carolyn.
Blizzard might be the real,
sure.
Money. I mean, when you think about just all the merch and like how much, like maybe not as much now, but stuff like Overwatch and World of Warcraft, those are still very, very, very valuable properties.
For sure. Yeah. So we have the story here from the Wall Street Journal written by Carolyn Bardo, Kirsten Grind, and Aaron Tilley. They broke the story, but then Microsoft released a statement. I'm going to read the Microsoft statement, and then I'm going to pull some stuff from various sources around the internet. But I want to get it straight from the horse's mouth about their announcement. So they say, quote, with 3 billion people actively playing games today and fueled by a new generation steeped in the joys of interactive entertainment, gaming is now the largest and fastest growing form of entertainment. Today, Microsoft Corp announced plans to acquire Activision Blizzard Inc., a leader in game development and interactive entertainment content publisher. This acquisition will accelerate the growth in Microsoft's gaming business across mobile, PC, console, and cloud, and will provide building blocks for the metaverse, which they say metaverse too much.
We got to stop saying metaverse.
When the transaction closes, Microsoft will become the third largest gaming company in the world by revenue, behind Tencent and Sony. The planned acquisition includes iconic franchises from Activision, Blizzard, and King Studios like Warcraft, Diablo, Overwatch, Call of Duty, and Candy Crush, in addition to global esports activities through Major League Gaming, which is also huge. The company has studios around the world with nearly 10,000 employees. They go on to say, quote, gaming is the most dynamic and exciting category in entertainment across all platforms today and will play a key role in the development of metaverse platforms, said Satya Nadella, chairman and CEO of Microsoft. He continues to say, we're investing deeply in world-class content, community, and the cloud to usher in a new era of gaming that puts players and creators first and makes gaming safe, inclusive, and accessible to all, end quote. So there's a ton to unpack here. I want to first start by providing some acquisition context, because there have been a lot of like media acquisitions in the last decade plus.
I would say we are in the era of media acquisitions.
Yeah, but I think the ones that have been most mainstream and most kind of like that our audience would know of, just to kind of provide context on how ludicrous this number is. In 2012, Disney bought all of Star Wars, like the IP of Star Wars, for $4 billion.
That is insane.
Right? In 2009, they bought Marvel minus anything that Fox owned, which was like X-Men, Deadpool, a bunch of other stuff. Not a bunch of other stuff, but some other stuff. For, again, $4 billion. So
not quite the media juggernaut it is now. Not that 100%. Not that it's not huge.
I mean, that was in 2009. So that was after Iron Man and Iron Man 2.
Post Iron Man. Yeah.
Right.
Clearly now it would be worth
a
hell of a lot more, but
right.
But still.
Yeah, exactly. In 2020, Microsoft buys ZeniMax for $7.5 billion in September. And then I actually didn't put the date here. I thought I did, but Disney within the last several years also bought this is the biggest one ever. Disney bought 21st Century Fox, which included Fox Movie Studios, basically the rest of Marvel, Avatar, National Geographic, Hulu, ESPN, FX, and more. Basically all Fox minus their news for $71.3 billion.
Well, that sweet Simpsons money, baby.
So essentially, the value of Call of Duty, Warcraft, etc., is like just a few billion short of Hulu, ESPN, FX, like half of media properties on TV.
Yeah.
I just wanted to kind of provide some monetary context there, because 2 weeks ago we were talking about it. The number that in my head was like somewhere north of 10 billion, but I never would have expected nearly $70 billion, which is just insane. But yeah, so there's a lot more to cover here, but I at least want to kind of step aside and kind of get initial thoughts from both of you before we kind of dive into like which studios this includes, some quotes from Phil Spencer about whether they're going to gatekeep from PlayStation, that kind of thing. But I want to kind of open it up. So Cayman, I know you probably have a ton of thoughts that you want to share. So let's start with you.
Okay. So first and foremost, I think that this is just overall bad for gaming entirely. I don't think that this is a death blow for Sony, but a franchise as large as Call of Duty, especially, like taking that and gatekeeping and saying you can't have access to this franchise that's worth billions of dollars it's an interesting, shitty conundrum, because that franchise sells consoles. If you remove that from the ecosystem and say, okay, well, you can only now play this on an Xbox system.
Sure.
Look, Xbox is going to sell a shit ton of consoles because of it. And that's their goal, right? I mean, obviously they want to sell a ton of consoles. However, you're kind of fucking every single person over by just taking something away from them. Then you run into the issue where you've got older games that are still going to be on those consoles that still have live servers. Are they still going to be supported? Are you still going to have access to these games? Are they going to shut the servers down unless you're playing on Xbox and you're saying like, oh, well, you still want to play Warzone? Well, fuck you. Now you got to go buy an Xbox if you want to do that, because we're shutting down the PlayStation servers. That's a real possibility. That could happen.
It could.
Like I said, I don't think, because if you look at a company like Nintendo rarely gets any of these big IPs, right?
Nintendo just has its own big IP.
Right.
Big IPs.
Yeah. And so I don't think that it's a death blow to Sony, but it's going to shift the ecosystem in such a way that it's going to minimize Sony's presence in the field, which means Sony will have to be better about everything they do, or Sony is going to have to start playing hardball and are going to have to start trying to buy out companies at the same rate that Microsoft is, which once again is horrible for everyone. If you told me if the shoe was on the other foot and Sony purchased out Activision, I'd be just as angry.
Sure.
Because it's gatekeeping, it's anti-consumerism, and it's fucked, right? All of these people, though, are now saying this. Moving on to the second point, all these people are like, well, what's the legality of this? And my whole thought process is there is no question. they've got the best lawyers in the world working at these mega corporations, right? They wouldn't have made this announcement if they didn't already know that this was legal and it was going to go through.
Yeah, I saw a few things yesterday on Twitter from various outlets and kind of experts in this, and they were like, this is, in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of like corporate buyouts, this is small potatoes. This is not gonna, like, there's no, like, antitrust wouldn't hold here. It was kind of what they were pondering and saying.
A lot of people are trying to argue that this is a lateral merger and not a top up, like buying out someone's. Yeah, it's not a vertical, it's a lateral move, which I disagree with. Sure. I know Activision's huge, or Activision Blizzard. It's a huge conglomerate with a lot of IP, and they make a fuck ton of money through, Warcraft or Call of Duty. But Microsoft is just so much bigger, right?
Sure.
Like, this would be the same thing if Sony were to purchase out Activision. It would be the exact same situation. Both of these companies are huge. My thing is, it falls back on the idea that it just shows that Microsoft as a company has such little faith in the developers they already have to be able to produce content that is going to drive consumers to purchase Xbox and play in the Xbox like ecosystem, that they're going to have to go out and try to buy out the biggest names possible to try to take down their competitors because they're falling so short.
I think it's a different point of view. Sure. I think it's a different point of view, but I want to bring in Evan and see what you think on this whole situation.
Yeah, I think it is a worrying trend, but overall not like a horrible thing.
Sure.
First of all, Microsoft and Xbox are lagging behind a lot of the competition already. I mean, they do pretty well over here in the West, but in the East, it's like nothing, right?
Good point. So it's growing, but it's not big.
Yeah, I mean, especially not compared to the two giants of Sony and Nintendo, right? Also, I don't think, and this is just theorizing, I don't think that they would stop selling Call of Duty games for PlayStation because they own the company now, and that makes them a fuck ton of money selling on the PlayStation. Now, they'll definitely be more focused on doing stuff for the Xbox, but I think that that's actually not bad, especially from someone who loves the Game Pass model. I think more and more games like that, or in that model, is awesome because I think that's kind of the way of the future, and it's very surprising to me that only like Sony's kind of dipped their toe in the water. Nintendo's starting to get in on it, but really Microsoft is the only one that's like, here is like day one, new games, AAA games, $15 a month, every month.
Yeah.
They're really the only ones kind of pioneering that. And I do think that is what the future of gaming looks like.
See, I agree. If you don't mind, I take umbrage with one part of that.
Sure.
The Netflix model, right? Which I think Game Pass would be considered as part of like the
Microsoft's own words. They describe it as a Netflix model.
Yeah, so absolutely. I like it a lot, but
the Netflix model has huge glaring issues. One of the issues is if it doesn't perform super, super well, like gangbuster, it's not going to go any further. It's going to die off. Second issue is Netflix is very good about every 6 months coming in and saying, hey, we're bumping up the subscription price. Then on top of that, you also have where, let's be honest, there's some like Netflix is buying out some good stuff and they're going to festivals and they're getting some good movies. But the amount of trash, and not like the good kind of trash, the trash cinema trash, but like just poorly made films, poorly just done. Production is just shit. And basically they're just overflowing with that. The more we move into this sort of model, especially with games, we're going to start running into that where Game Pass is not going to cost what it does cost right now. With this acquisition, there's no fucking way that they're going to be able to justify, especially if you're going to get Call of Duty day one, or you're going to get all these new Activision Blizzard games day one.
Maybe
it's not going to cost what it does. It's going to start increasing in cost to the point where will it still make sense for a gamer to spend however much money that they're now going to say you're going to have to spend? And I know that like Sony could come in and say, we have our own version of this. And we're going to do it cheaper. And we can start arguing about the economics of, trying to play off each other and keep the price as low as possible. But the truth of the matter is, these massive companies, they don't fucking care. They'll just set the bar, whatever, and then they'll just communicate to each other and be like, all right, this is what the new. That's how games went from $40 to $70 now. Like over time, that just happens. So as much as I think that as of right now, like, because when Netflix came out, like the original Netflix model was incredible. But as it continues to grow and they have to keep being bigger and bigger and bigger and do more and more and more, the quality starts to drop. And I'm afraid that that's what we're going to run into is a drop in quality and an increase in price. And I think it's not going to make as much sense.
I think it's a fair fear, but I don't think it's fair to already say that that's the way it's going to go, because we don't know that. Like I think using the term Netflix model, I think more so just describes that you're paying a subscription to have access to games. I don't think that's their way of saying like we're also copying their business strategy. So I think that it's a bit of a jump to say that that's going to happen. It might. I'm not saying that it's not going to. Look, it definitely could.
I predicted that Microsoft was going to buy out Activision. So I think I get a little bit of credibility here, guys.
You get 3 of those. You get 3. I said that this was going to happen, so that's going to happen. So that's one of them. So there's that. But I also think, I want to pull in a couple quotes because I tend to side with Brando on I don't necessarily think that they're going to totally gatekeep COD. I think there might be like a time period in which they do, and I'll kind of explain what I mean by that. But Dina Bass, I'm not sure if it's Bass or Bass, from Bloomberg, posted an article yesterday, and she got a quote from Phil Spencer, who is the head of Xbox, and he said, or she says in her article, Microsoft plans to keep making some of Activision's games for PlayStation consoles, but will also keep some content exclusive to Xbox, said someone familiar with the company's thinking. That's Dina. Then she goes on to quote Phil saying, I will just say to players out there playing Activision games on Sony's platform, it is not our intent to pull communities away from that platform, and we remained committed to that, Spencer said in the interview. So the big caveat there is there's a lot of really specific words that I'm sure 70 lawyers made sure were okay to say.
Oh yeah.
But I do, if there's one person that I trust, like he has not given me a reason to not trust him when it comes to any of the executives in the games, it's Phil. Like obviously Xbox is in the money making business and they just do that with video games, but you can tell, like hearing him talk on podcasts and hearing him in interviews, like he really does care about the games. He doesn't just care about the money. He knows how to make money with them. Go ahead, Evan.
Oh, I was gonna say, and even if you are like a cynic and believe that he is like, this is all lip service, this is these are the ideals he believes to be the most profitable, even if you want to look at it from that. So really it doesn't matter if it's lip service or not, if he's like backing it up with stuff. I personally am with you. I think he really believes what he's saying, but
I do too.
Look, if this is the setup, right, where they're not going to gatekeep. I said it before, I think in a few episodes previous, when we were talking about how Sony probably wasn't going to play ball because with Bethesda games, right? Where they're going to be like, you know what? We don't need Starfield. We don't need Skyrim. We don't need these. We'll be able to be just fine without them. I think now is the situation. I don't think Sony has the option to say no anymore. Like
no to
this merger, like no to having Microsoft published games. Now, sure, I know that they already 100%. have Minecraft, which so they're already playing ball enough.
And Psychonauts.
Well, yeah, that was kind of written up, and Deathloop and Ghost Tokyo Ghostwire.
Psychonauts was something I wanted to bring up. Yeah, because it is like not an exclusive, even though they bought Double Fine.
Yeah. And that partially is because it was announced like a decade ago.
Sure. But even still, I think, well, maybe not with that particular one, but in general.
But yeah, like, so I know like go ahead, Cam.
So with Activision though, with unlike Psychonauts or Deathloop or Tokyo Ghostwire, like with those games, like there have been a like dev cycle for years now. So these contracts on like, we're going to release it on your platform, these were done well before these acquisitions took place. Now, sure, this doesn't technically go into effect until June of 2023. So there is time for things like a lot of these wrinkles to be worked out between, Microsoft and Sony.
Yeah.
But my thing is that I highly, highly doubt that there's contracts in place for the next 5 years worth of Call of Duty games. They release once a year. It's not one of those where they've been, where they're going to have this situation where they're going to be like, hey, we already have a contract where that game is going to be on our platform, and you can't do anything about it because that contract's, you have to basically fulfill it. I don't think that that's going to be the case, but like we said, in no way, shape, or form can Sony play hardball with Microsoft right now about this. If Microsoft says we're going to publish these on your console and you will have access to these games, I just don't think that Sony has any ability at all anymore to say no, which could end up being a good thing, because that could potentially mean that in a year or two down the line, PlayStation might get Starfield. We might get Bethesda games again on the Sony platform.
So yeah, I think that is kind of the key here. I think, and Evan kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier. I think ultimately they're going to do what will make them the most money in terms of gatekeeping. And I think it makes sense. Like when the Bethesda acquisition happened, I was of the belief that, look, you pay $7.5 billion for something, you're going to keep it on your own console. So it feels contradictory to say, well, you paid $70 billion, so of course you're going to keep it to that console. But I think this is Microsoft showing their hand and saying, we want to get in the publishing business. Mm-hmm. It's going to be on Xbox. We already put all of our stuff on PC day one. Anything that we publish day one is on Game Pass. And in order to get Game Pass, you pay $15 a month. Obviously, there's an asterisk. I'm sure the price is going to go up at some point. But yeah, I think this is Microsoft saying to Sony, you have to let Game Pass on Sony, because otherwise we could.
Oh, that's, I don't know that they will. I didn't think about that.
I don't know that they will, but they could.
No, I like from that. Them. That makes a lot of sense.
Call of Duty, Crash Bandicoot, because that's the other thing too. There's an interesting piece here that Cayman and I kind of debated a little bit.
Crash,
Crash Activision? Is that? Yeah, that's Activision.
Whoa, whoa! I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I want to kind of transition a little bit into like some of the IP that now Microsoft owns, because that's also a really interesting piece here. But something that Cayman and I were debating via text was, one of the kind of like tragedies of Activision of the last 7+ years is they basically folded in all of their companies to just make Call of Duty. Like even as recently as the company that made, it actually might not be for Call of Duty specifically, but the company that made the Tony Hawk game, they're like, hey, you're not doing that anymore. It just doesn't sell. And so, and Cayman made a good point off air where Activision's whole thing is like, if it's not going to make $1 billion, you're not doing it. Mm-hmm. And while I think Microsoft is in the money-making business, I do think that in their mind, the way you make more money is by giving gamers what they want, which is Crash Bandicoot, Tony Hawk, these things. But so I'm kind of going in a few different directions here, but these are just some of the IP that they now own. Obviously Call of Duty, obviously Diablo, Warcraft, StarCraft, Overwatch, Candy Crush. Those are kind of the big ones that are being talked about. But they also now own Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Skylanders, if those were to come back,
which those were pretty huge. I mean, they started off a whole Toys to Life thing that I don't think it's around anymore, but
but
there was a Disney like copycat. There were I want to say a few other copycats that were like,
I could see something like
Lego
that coming
Dimensions,
back.
Yeah, Lego Dimensions, that was the other one. Yeah, absolutely.
Raven Software, who has gone on to make Call of Duty for the last several years, but they made incredible games like X-Men Legends, Marvel Ultimate Alliance. Now, obviously, those are wrapped up in the Marvel IP, but those are just some of the games that they used to make. We also have High Moon, who made the Deadpool video game in 2013. Again, Marvel IP, but and then those awesome Transformers games from like the early 2010s. Those are
those games
from High
ruled.
Moon.
Battle for Cybertron. Those games are awesome.
Beanox made the old Spider-Man games. Again, asterisk that's a Marvel IP, but like Shadow Dimensions, Edge of Time, those kinds of games.
Also
F and Ruled. They made some Guitar Hero games. I'm not sure if Activision owns the IP of Guitar Hero. That might be something that they own. I'm not totally positive on, but it's just, there's a lot of potential opportunity here for a bunch of studios to not just make Call of Duty anymore, because they don't need to. Like Microsoft has the money and they make the money to be able to justify not making $1 billion on everything we release.
Right. And they're proven that they will do like a risky or thing like that, because people know that eventually like a beloved IP will pay off.
So
in a lot of
that's
ways.
Ultimately, that's like what
or something.
Yeah, exactly. Ultimately, that's what I find most exciting about this is that, it's just it's a $70 billion being moved from one place to another. But I hope that this opens up the door for more freedom from these companies to not just make Call of Duty. And honestly, I would hope that Call of Duty no longer is an annualized franchise. Go the Assassin's Creed route where you're going to release it every few years and make a better product. I used to love Call of Duty games, but I don't play them anymore because they're just the same thing every single year.
I also think it's a holdover too. That and like Madden are a holdover from when games did do that. And now a lot of games are just as a service, right? Like League of Legends, for instance, is a game that gets a buck ton of new content every year. Could potentially justify League of Legends 2022, 2023, whatever it is. But they don't, because it doesn't make financial sense. It makes less sense than the way they are doing it. So I could see them eventually shifting to that model.
For sure.
For games like Call of Duty or Madden or what have you.
Okay, I agree. So I saw something earlier today that was kind of in response to this whole scenario, and I kind of want to throw it at you guys and see what you think. So I saw on Twitter someone had posted, they had asked the question, what is PlayStation's response to this acquisition? And
figure out how to make more PS5s. The only thing they should be focusing on right now.
True.
The one that I thought was very interesting was basically someone had come up and said, look, what's the next biggest game that you can try to fit that's a studio that you would be able to purchase? Take-Two, I don't think that you could buy it. Take-Two is going to be 80, 90 billion, presumably.
What did they say, or what did you say?
Bungie.
Oh, interesting.
Purchasing out Bungie, you could probably get it. I mean, it's probably closer to a bill, maybe a little more than a bill. I don't, because it's not like Activision. They're not releasing they're just doing. I mean, they apparently have a secret game that hasn't been announced yet. But that was the response. It was like, look, if you want to punch back at Microsoft for doing this, then taking Destiny 2 away from Microsoft is.
Do they even need to, though? Like I was saying, it's not like Microsoft.
I don't know if they need to.
Yeah, Microsoft.
I don't either, but
not
I
really
could see
anything
them.
like gaming wise is very, very much fallen off.
I saw something it's funny that you say that, came in. I saw a tweet of someone was like, can you imagine what this deal would have cost if Bungie wasn't released from Activision and they didn't basically buy their way out of Activision, because they used to be part of Activision.
God.
When they left. Yeah, when they stopped making Halo and they started doing Bungie, or they started doing Destiny, they were part of Activision for a little bit, and then they kind of got their freedom, as it were. But yeah, I mean, because I would say that's probably more than $1 billion, because Bungie, I mean, they're the creators of Halo, and then they have Destiny, which is one of the most profitable video games ever too. But yeah, I feel like my gut tells me they don't need to do something specifically to respond, for a couple reasons. One is, for a decade now, they have had tenfold of the IP that Microsoft had, in terms of banger after banger after banger, things like God of War, Last of Us, and then bringing in things like Marvel, Spider-Man, Wolverine. I'm sure is going to be a banger. They have Uncharted, all of these things that all of these.
Wolverine's gonna be good.
It's gonna be so good.
I'm just excited for Wolverine. Anyway,
they have all these IP, and a lot of the time, I mean, Cayman, you and I mean, this goes back 6+ years, where we're like, I just don't understand how Microsoft is still around in terms of being relevant, because they just don't produce exclusive games like Sony does. Now they do, and it may be a little bit more in terms of quality, because they've brought in so many other things now, because they have Double Fine now. They have all of these really, really top-notch studios. But as we mentioned in that article, Sony is still the number 2 tech company in terms of revenue in games, behind Tencent, which basically has a monopoly across all of Asia. But so I don't know that they have to. There is an interesting piece. This is from Bloomberg as well. This is a different article. This is from Takeshi Mochizuki and Vlad Savov, if I'm saying that right, that said, reported in today. It's in the stock market in Tokyo today. Sony's valuation, or their shares dropped 13%, which equates to about $20 billion. So that's a pretty sizable drop, huge. Now, it'll probably make up a fair amount of that, because stock market goes up and down a lot. But in response to that, there were some economic advisors, analysts, whatever, that said a couple pieces that I thought was interesting, and I think kind of is along your line of thinking, Cayman. This is Amir and Varzada, if I'm saying that right, from Asymmetric Advisors. He says, or they say, I don't know if this person is identifies as male. They say Sony will have a monumental challenge on its hands to stand on its own in this war of attrition. With Call of Duty now most likely to be added exclusively to the Game Pass roster, the headwinds for Sony are only going to get tougher. Now, I don't necessarily agree that that's going to happen, but if it did, yes, the headwinds are definitely stronger. And then another one that I found really interesting was from Katsunori Ito from Morningstar Research. And they said Sony will struggle to match Microsoft in terms of money it can spend on to buy popular game IP. Falling shares illustrate investors are worried that Sony may not be able to keep winning if indeed the industry shifts away from the hardware-based model, which is a really interesting point, the hardware-based model, because Sony, most of their revenue comes from their consoles. PlayStation 4, like the second highest or the most successful, in terms of revenue, the highest grossing console of all time. So
is that true?
It is true in terms of revenue specifically, not units sold.
No. I know it's not units sold.
So part of that is because of inflation, the economy, whatever. But in terms of just revenue specifically, it is the most, it's the highest grossing console of all time. So obviously they make a lot of their money from consoles. So then to your point, Cayman, are people going to stop buying consoles because they can't play Call of Duty? So it's like, it's a really complicated thing. So that's one of those points that makes me actually think, is Cayman right here?
I mean, I'm typically wrong, and sometimes I am right, and these situations are few and far between. But like I said before, I don't think as of right now that Sony is knocking on death's door. I don't think so.
I have one other point I'd like to make.
Please.
Is that the gaming industry, at least the home console industry, and the line between that and the PC gaming industry are way more blurred and fuzzy than they ever were in the past. So Microsoft, in acquiring this, is also standing to benefit from their PC side because they also do obviously produce a lot of home computers, which are not often counted. Really I play Xbox Game Pass exclusively on my PC.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's a really good point.
I think ultimately the only person who benefits from this is it's only PC players, because if Sony goes in and they buy out Bungie or they start doing exclusive shit, they're starting to put all their stuff now on PC as well. So they're slowly, but not as quickly as Microsoft is, but they're getting there, and they're starting to publish their games on PC. And so if you're a PC player, you're going to get access to Game Pass. You'll have access to whatever Sony releases. You'll be able to play everything at a certain point. You're going to get access to every single thing. So the problem that you run into is that buying a console like an Xbox, a Switch, or a PlayStation 5, or PlayStation, is that your cost of entry is so much lower than trying to get a PC that is a high enough quality to be able to run some of these games at the same fidelity that you need to do. Then there's the cost of upkeep, and there's additional things like that, where a console will last you 7 years and games will get better looking, but you don't need to upgrade your specs. You don't have to go in and replace your GPU inside of your PlayStation to be able to play, Crysis 3. So, it's one of those where I don't think that consoles are going to die out unless PCs, like gaming PCs, can drop in price or can become more economical for your average Joe who likes to play video games.
Sure.
But with that being said, I do see that in the future, in the next 20, 30 years, that we probably will get to that where you're no longer going to get disc-based consoles. It'll all be digital. And it's going to be like having a miniature computer, that just plugs directly into your TV. Yeah. So I think we'll get to that point. The question is what's the landscape going to look like when we get there? Are we still going to have these massive? Are we still going to have the Sony group, or are we still going to? Is there just going to be where it's pretty much a shit show? Everyone's going to be publishing whatever they want whenever they want to do it, and then you're up in the air.
I do find it so interesting that there's been this term, the console wars, for as long as I've been following the games industry, which is like 12 years now. And
there's been console wars since.
That's been since from back in the Sega versus.
Sega does what Nintendo don't.
Right, exactly. But what I meant there was, I feel like for the last like 12 years, console wars has been a hollow term. Like there hasn't really been a console war in that it's either you play games on console, you play games on PC, but like I haven't felt like it's been much of like a war, as it were. But this definitely feels like we're getting back to a place where it is like they're going to be going at it to kind of gain more ground in the industry.
Well, I would also argue that release wise, they all used to kind of be around the same time. And obviously now with supply chain issues, it's a little harder to get a clearer picture of what that looks like. And obviously Nintendo has decided to just say, we're going to do our own thing and release on our own schedule because the Wii U was such a fucking failure, which is weird because they were selling the 3DS as like one of their most successful consoles forever and ever. Amen. So you have this weird dichotomy where they're like, fuck it, we're just going to do that and nuts to kind of this. To these guys, we'll let them fight.
Right. But yeah, so we'll see where the cards play out. The last thing I wanted to mention on this, unless either of you have a final thing that you want to say, because something that we didn't address at all, which the other, in my opinion, good news of this is that they have since clarified that Bobby Kotick, who is the CEO of Activision Blizzard, will be stepping down like once the deal goes through. And
thank God, that was it.
We've mentioned it a little bit on previous episodes, but
my man's gonna get his blood money and fuck off.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure he's gonna get paid and he's gonna be laughing his way to the bank, but at least he won't be hurting people anymore at Activision Blizzard. And yeah, for those of you who don't know, he is just a glorified
piece of shit,
absolute piece of dog shit who has been creating a culture of has caused suicide among other really terrible things.
It led to something called the Cosby Suite.
Yeah,
which I think is an unfortunate coincidence, but still happened.
And
it's all terrible.
And its name exactly describes what it was. So he's on his way out, which is and ultimately the interesting piece of this, Phil Spencer has basically, he doesn't like say it explicitly, but they started approaching Activision in November to acquire them when all of this started breaking. So that's a big part of it, which is going back to the very beginning of the conversation to kind of put a nice little bow on it. The reason Cayman made the prediction and Evan's point at the beginning was it made sense because of the absolute PR madness that was happening. And funnily enough, that's the exact reason that Phil Spencer and the team is doing it, because they saw an opportunity.
Yeah, so I actually was reading, apparently in the wake of like the latest set of accusations against Bobby Kotick and Activision, their shares had dropped by 27%. So technically, Microsoft actually bought them, actually got a steal on the deal.
Interesting.
So the $68 billion, almost $70 billion was presumably so much higher than that if they were to attempt to do that without it. So it makes sense for them to Activision to sell themselves just to appease their shareholders,
right,
and to get the fuck out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They accomplished
that. This will obviously be something we'll be tracking as it goes through, because I'm sure there will also be a lot more updates to this story before the deal closes next year. But I want to ask you guys this. I'm breaking the fourth wall here. We've been going for 53 minutes. Do we think we have time to do the Fantasy Critic League today, or do we think we need to do a 16.5 where we record that part separately? I think fine going, but I could see it going at least another hour.
Yeah, I was actually going to shoot a text over and be like, should we split this into 2 episodes?
I think we should probably split it into 2 episodes. I could record it tonight, but I feel like maybe we should.
I would prefer if we're gonna do part 2 to just pick a different night, if that's cool.
Great.
I can make any night work next week if we want to do
totally fine.
Regular Tuesday. Just because we are in the process of moving and stuff.
No, for sure. Cool. So I'm probably just gonna leave this in, at least in the video version. But we can just end it here, and then we can circle back for Fantasy Critic. I mean, at this exact moment.
Shit.
Not this exact moment, but yeah, because it would end up being a really long episode. Okay, cool. Well then, that's our show, even though I told you we were going to do a different topic.
He lied.
We're going to save that for next. I'm a liar. We can go on record by saying I am a liar. I'm a cheat. I'm a rapscallion. I don't know that rapscallion,
con man, medicine man, fleecer.
Would rapscallion fit in with those words, or
rapscallion's more like a scamp? Yeah, we're talking like con man,
right? A grifter.
A grifter. For sure.
someone who sells NFTs.
A Donald Trump.
A flim-flammer. A hustler.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's our show.
Fraud.
Evan, what do you want to tell our listeners about where they can see you, where they can watch you, where they can get your voice in their ears?
Yeah. We're actually a few days off of a thing I could maybe officially announce, but
do it. I can't.
It's not.
We'll start about it next week.
Not sealed yet necessarily, but you can find me at Twitch at twitch.tv/The Brando Show. That is mostly where I do content stuff now. Or if you just like the sound of my voice, but if you like the words that are coming out of it, but you don't like the sound of my voice, rather, I'm on Twitter and all the social medias at Evan Brando Show.
Nice.
So, and check out the Indie Source Podcast Network. I run that.
Yeah.
It's got a ton of other awesome shows.
I love it. Yeah, we also came in. I don't think I have mentioned this to you. Evan and I texted about this last night. We might be doing some streaming with Evan soon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ooh,
yeah, that's
so
true.
We might be. I got to figure out how the fuck to do it. But
this particular thing will be very stream friendly.
Great. Cool. Sweet. So yeah, write and review the podcasts. Fucking go to YouTube and subscribe and all that shit. What else? Give me a kiss.
Save Trash Cinema, January 25th, second episode, Samurai Cop. It's currently on Tubi. Watch it before you listen to the show because it takes a lot of time to actually do that show.
We have a birthday shout out.
Oh shit, we do, don't we? Yes,
we do.
Yes. Sorry, I feel terrible for this being like this, but want to wish a happy birthday to two of our listeners. One to Sir Nicholas Walski. Just want to wish you a happy 30th birthday. I hope you enjoy it, my friend. And then
that's today. That's right now, isn't it? As we record.
Record. Shit.
Hey Nick, I also know you. You're also a buddy of mine. I am also wishing you a happy 30th birthday, but independent from theirs.
Well, happy birthday, Nick, whenever it is. I know it's sometime this week when you
I think it is. I think it's right now. Yeah.
It's right when we're recording, Nick. Oh, happy fucking birthday. The other shout out I want to give birthday is to Taylor.
You'll be like, in the future, you'll be like, man, fuck, they forgot my birthday. And then you'll be listening.
Yeah, I'm not going to text him. This will be my way of saying happy birthday to him. He doesn't realize that I'm saying it today.
None of us forgot.
Didn't forget.
All those bad things you said about us because all the three of us forgot, or at least you thought we did. But you feel like a goddamn fool.
Well, the second birthday wish, like I said, happy birthday, Taylor. I'm obviously not going to say your age on this because you never reveal a lady's true age. But I do want to wish you a happy birthday as well. I hope that you are enjoying it. And Patrick and I will gift you some more CC's Pizza coupons for your birthday. Just check your mailbox in like 6 to 8 months when we finally get around to that. And happy birthday to everybody.
You can get the CC's.
Happy birthday to everybody.
If you're listening and thought we forgot your birthday, I bet you feel like a real jackass right now.
Hey, your birthday might be in 6 months, but fuck you. Happy birthday.
You can listen to this episode anytime you want. Anytime you have a birthday.
Bookmark it. At this point, 58 minutes and 14 seconds into the podcast, maybe a little bit more with transitions and stuff. Cool. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
From the Spot Games crew.
Ooh, very nice. Head over to YouTube. Give us a follow. I already said that, so I'm just going to let you go and keep doing what you're doing. I hope that you're not burning your dinner as you're cooking and listening to us right now because we've been so entertaining that we distracted you. But until we meet again, I love you. Thank you. Good night.